Diary of a Trans Woman is brought to you by each and every one of you over at patreon.com. Patreon.com/Diary of a Trans Woman is where you're going to go to learn more about supporting this show. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. This is the return of Diary of a Trans Woman. It is episode 59, and I was sick last week. I had a nice 2-day week at work, which was nice. Got to take 3 days off to lay at home and do nothing except knit and watch Netflix and knit some more and lay in bed and pretend like the world wasn't ending and I was okay. But anyways, we're back and we got a bunch of stuff to talk about. We got kind of a story about something that happened in a line at a store that I want to talk about, kind of discuss. And we have 3 awesome news topics that we want to talk about. One of them is more of a comic than anything else. We have a trans person being barred from speaking, and a little bit of football news for all the Americans out there, because that's a thing. Americans, we all love football, and that's a thing that's a thing, right? Yeah, okay. So let's go ahead and stop talking about what the show's going to be like, and I'll go ahead and just start the show so you can find out what it's going to be like. Let's go. All right, so what's been going on in my life? My life has been kind of crazy these past couple of weeks. I was sick all last week, as I mentioned before, and it was something going around. I'm not sure if I brought it into work or if I caught it at work or what, but yeah, about half of my team at work has been out sick at some point or another in the past 2 weeks. So it's been something going around. So if you're out there and you're not sick, just don't get sick because it's not fun. Spent a lot of time laying on the couch and sweating and trying to stay warm and trying to finish a couple of knitting projects and watching some Netflix. One thing I really like, I watched the entirety of the series of Unfortunate Events with Neil Patrick Harris in there. I watched the entirety of that in one day. I kind of really like that. They have a person on there who is essentially trans, I guess. They don't really talk about it that much, but if you're familiar with the books, and A Series of Unfortunate Events by Lemony Snicket is one of the few Lemony Snicket. There's only one Snicket, Lemony Snicket. It's one of the few book series I remember reading essentially all the way through. I may have not read I think I read the last book, but it's still fuzzy. But I read the entire series through. To the best of my knowledge, it's been so long. And one of the things that was talked about, and it never really jumped out at me until watching the series, one of the evil henchmen that Count Olaf has in his acting troupe is a person who is very androgynous. And they kind of make it very clear that it's just kind of hard to tell if they're a man or a woman. And I think that was the first time I had ever heard that term, androgynous, and that the whole book series was really great on introducing brand new terms and sayings and whatnot, and this was certainly one of them. And it wasn't until watching this series that I realized that androgynous doesn't necessarily have to mean someone who just lacks any feminine or masculine characteristics. It can be someone who is just kind of in the middle, and the character in the show is certainly someone who looks to be in the early stages of transitioning, dressing and appearing somewhat feminine, but still having these very masculine qualities. And it made me do kind of a double take and think about it, because I had never thought of this person in the books as having having a transgender or gender non-conforming motif to it. I want to try and look on and see who played this person, and if IMDb would load, that would be amazing. Neil Patrick Harris, Mr. Post. Maddie Carter-Ropel. Maddie Carter-Ropel. Let's see what Maddie Carter-Ropel is doing these days. Yeah, definitely someone who looks very androgynous. Is known for being in Jurassic World. What was he in Jurassic World? Oh, he was a gyrosphere operator. When you this is someone who has yet to make their acting debut in a big movie, because when you're best known for a movie is the gyroscope operator in Jurassic World, you're still they're still waiting for their big break. So looks like they've done a lot of bit parts, but yeah, definitely a very androgynous person. And I love how I like series, especially I like television series because I like the long form, but I enjoy series where there is a transgender character, but you don't focus on their gender identity. Obviously, I love a story about a trans woman or a trans someone or a queer someone where the story does not center around them being trans or them being queer. And sometimes this gets to the point where you simply just don't talk about it. So you don't have a term to refer to this person. And even in the credits of Series of Unfortunate Events, they're in every episode. And their name is just the henchperson of indeterminate gender. And so I thought, that's kind of cool. Voltron does this as well. The new Voltron series. Pidge is a person who is trans, and they don't really address it directly, but there are certainly trans themes sprinkled throughout their character progression, and it's a very interesting thing because I, for one, enjoy seeing works of media where there is an effort made to be more accepting towards trans and LGBT individuals. But I also am very refreshed when I see that a story is not revolving around somebody's gender identity, especially when there are other characters and other roads that the story can go down. So that was very, very interesting to watch. Something happened with me earlier this week. While I was sick, I decided I needed to go out and buy a mattress, and because if you have been watching on video, you've noticed I've kind of moved into the basement of the place I'm staying at, which is a beautiful big space. I've got a lot of space to work in. I've got a bed. I've got a work area over here for podcasting. I've got kind of a couch area to just chill and read and knit and do whatever. And it's very nice, but it is very cold. And with moving down here, I didn't have an extra full-size mattress, so I've been staying on an air mattress the whole time. And in Michigan, it gets pretty cold at night, and it's very hard to stay warm when you're staying on an air mattress and not an actual mattress. So I decided to go out and actually get a freaking mattress and just splurge and get it. And so I went out and took the tag, brought it up, got it, and the guy at the counter just and at this point I'm also, it should be noticed, I'm sick, I'm tired, and I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired, and I just want to get this thing. I want to find some way to strap it onto the top of my tiny car, drive it across town, get it home, and just flop onto that bed and go to sleep. And so that's kind of the mood I'm in. And I go up to the cashier, and I am handing the guy money, and he just looks at me and goes, "Oh, so have you started HRT yet?" And I just looked at him, I was like, "I'm sorry? Hormones. Have you started taking hormones yet?" And I just kind of spluttered for a second, and I stopped, and I thought, I'm kind of at the point now where I'm not ecstatic over people being engaged in my gender transformation. I'm over that now. There was certainly a time when I would be very much like, yeah, cool, yeah, I started this and that, and this is how this is going, and man, this stuff is kind of crazy, right? Right now, I'm at the point where it's kind of like, you know what, I just want to be treated like any other customer you have today, and I don't want to talk about that. And I gave him kind of a look, and he kind of sees that he may have crossed a little bit of a line with me, and he says, "Oh, no, 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 it's fine, it's fine." Essentially saying he excusing himself, saying it's okay for him to ask this, saying it's fine. No, my partner is trans. He's female to male, and he actually hasn't started taking hormones because we're trying to conceive. And I stopped and I gave him another look, and it was just like, man. And I told him, I said, you know what, that's really just not something I talk about with strangers out in public. And it really kind of made me just stop and think and just be like, ugh. Yeah, I get that you're trying to be supportive and show that you are being inclusive towards transgender individuals. I think that that is great, but you went a little bit too far and just piled a whole bunch of TMI on me. Um, and so that was fun to deal with. That was my night. And so yeah, I got to thinking about that, and I it's weird because I have gotten to this new point in my transition where I'm ready to be treated like anybody else. I got no problem coming on and talking into a microphone and discussing different issues and answering emails and talking with people in settings that I am able to control and make into safe spaces. But when I'm out in the world and I'm walking around and just doing my thing, I just want to be treated like a normal person. I don't want to be I don't want my transgender identity to be the focus of my existence anymore. And on the other hand, too, I've been on hormones for almost 2 years now. And if he looks at me and wonders if I've even started yet, that kind of speaks more to kind of how I appear than anything else. And so that was bothersome as well. I'm real sick of being seen as a transgender woman. I just want to be seen as a woman. And it'll be 2 years in mid-May. And um people are still looking at me and thinking, have they even started yet? And so that's really difficult. That's really hard to deal with. Um Especially because I have some good trans friends in my life who have I look at them and I have a hard time seeing how they could ever be perceived as male. And they've been on them for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, um, in one case, 7 years. And so I'm really, and maybe it's just a case of there's always more you can get and you're never going to stop wanting more. But man, it's hard to deal with stuff like that. I just got an update from my computer saying that it's going to restart in about 10 minutes or so. So let's go ahead and jump right into the news, okay? How about that? Because my computer's awesome. It's not a piece of crap at all. Let's go. All right, so yeah, we're gonna make this a bit of a shorter episode because I really don't want to lose this episode. Um, so first news story that I want to talk about. This is something that was voted pretty high up on the transgender subreddit. There is a comic artist, a web comic out there called Assigned Male, and anyone who is trans, most people I know who are trans have heard of this, if not follow it fairly regularly. I've always had a bit of an issue with the comic in general because it it's been out for years. Like I remember seeing this very early on in coming out and everything. And it's someone who embodies this mentality that I hear a lot of people talking about of being baby trans. And that's not necessarily a derogatory term, or I certainly don't mean it as a derogatory term. But when you are quote unquote baby trans, um, it's very easy to see problems in a lot of different things in the world. And as you grow, you start to pick your battles and find out what's serious and what needs, excuse me, what needs addressing immediately and what doesn't really need addressing. For instance, I don't really pay attention when people called me "Hey dude" or "Hey man." It's something that is definitely on the list of things to work on, but it's not anything that needs my attention right now. Now, if somebody calls me "he," that's something that I need to address right away. Um, and that kind of stuff. So there's definitely you learn to pick your battles, certainly. And from reading this comic, I see a lot of stuff where this person is having issues all over the place. And maybe it's just a way for them to talk about things that might not necessarily be easy to talk about out in the real world. Certainly trying to explain to somebody why saying dude or man is offensive is a little bit more intricate than saying, "Hey, I'm not a he, I'm a she." Um, there's certainly different levels of ease when it comes to trying to explain to somebody why something is necessarily good or necessarily the right thing to say or the wrong thing to say. And I've seen a few things popping up lately about this. Actually, a few comics from Assigned Mail on this topic, and it's simply a 3-page panel with the it's basically one giant picture split into 3 panels of a family sitting on a couch laughing at something funny, and it's obvious they're watching TV. And then it says that every time you laugh at the idea of a man dressed as a woman, a trans girl gets more scared to come out. And often, the end of the couch, there's a rather young, androgynous looking person sitting on the couch looking very scared while the rest of their family laughs at a joke, apparently, assumingly being a man dressed as a woman. And so, this is kind of an example of something in my mind, not to say it's not a big deal for somebody else, but in my head I see this as something like, you know what, there's some bigger battles to fight out there, I think. But at the same time, I can also certainly see the merit of the artist's comic here. I can certainly see how it certainly is an issue. And so it just kind of made me think. There's not a commentary or a lesson or a moral to take away from this, but just kind of think like what constitutes as a big issue. I've talked on the show before about how um, in order to get stuff done in the LGBT community or the transgender community, there needs to be a unification of voices shouting for the same thing, or else it just sounds like all garbled nonsense and nobody can make out what to do. And that's why things don't necessarily get done, is because everyone is trying to fight for a different thing. And so what's the solution to this? And this is more of a call from me to everyone listening out there. Like what do you think is a battle that needs to be fought? What do you think is something that needs to be addressed immediately? If you have ideas, like I want to hear what your ideas are for things that need to be taken care of right away. Something that needs to be at the top of the priority list. Something specific and um, something definite, not abstract or anything like that. For example, being, hey, we need to make it known that a man dressing up as a woman is not really a joke, and it's not something to be used for comedy relief. So, if you have ideas on that, please send them in. I would love to hear them. We're gonna jump over here to this is from CBS News. NFL NFL warns Texas over bathroom bill. No Super Bowl for you. If anyone's been following the bathroom bills, I've started to kind of ignore, not necessarily ignore, but kind of there's so many stories about different bills showing up in different government institutions, whether on the state or federal level. There's so much news about these things showing up that will hinder LGBT rights and the freedoms that I'm supposed to enjoy as an American, or just there's so many things that supposedly threaten interest groups that I'm a part of, and very, very rarely do I see them come to fruition. And that's not to say that they aren't important to cover, but when you have 20 different bathroom bill stories from 20 different states, it's kind of hard to cover each and every one specifically. And so bathroom bills in general, pretty crappy in my opinion, and certainly go out and fight that. But you do what you cover them as best you can and hope for the best. But Texas is one of the states to have a proposed bathroom bill being talked about in the state government level. And it was very refreshing to read this article because and I'll just go ahead and read the first two paragraphs here. This is from CBSNews.com in Austin, Texas. The NFL sharpened its warning to Texas on Friday about a bathroom bill targeting transgender people, suggesting for the first time that the football-crazed state could miss out on hosting another Super Bowl if the proposal is enacted. If a proposal that is discriminatory or inconsistent with our values were to become law there, that would certainly be a factor for considering when thinking about awarding future events, the league spokesman Brian McCarthy said in response to an email question about the Texas bill. So this is good. This is encouraging. And the fact that the NFL is going to say, "Hey, no, you can't do that. This isn't our fight." The NFL doesn't really necessarily involve itself in matters of LGBT rights or anything like that. We're not going to take sides or whatever, but you're kind of screwing over a certain amount of people in your population, and that's not cool. So even if the NFL is not going to come out in support of LGBT rights or transgender rights, they're definitely going to be able to say, hey, like, we're not going to give you this thing that you kind of want if you do this, because that's kind of shitty. I'm really good at a Texas accent, as you can see. So that's encouraging. We got 4 minutes here, so let's go ahead and jump into if my window would switch over on the slow computer I have. Pinknews.com, pinknews.co.uk. School cancels visit from award-winning trans author as it is inappropriate. Dun dun dun. And this is quote. An award-winning trans novelist has been left mortified after a school canceled her visit, saying that it was inappropriate. Juno Dawson, author of Margaret and Me, and the book This Book is Gay, was due to speak at St. Mary's Catholic High School in Preston. However, despite the school previously being praised for its work on LGBT issues, it dumped the writer just 48 hours before the event was supposed to occur. And so I'm looking to see what they said in response, because they said it wasn't because she was trans, but that's kind of wishy-washy. School officials said it was inappropriate and the subject matter meant they just didn't think it was suitable. I'm going to do this super fast here. That's complete BS. If you are going to, you're going to look into somebody before you schedule it. Somebody came down the ladder and said, hey, no, we actually don't think this is a good idea, even though you booked this. So you need to go ahead and cancel this. Some higher up had a problem with it. And yeah, that's bull. Even if it's not a trans author, just booking somebody for an event, somebody who essentially makes a decent chunk of their living off of doing talks like this, and then to say 48 hours before the event to say, no, it's inappropriate. You could be any kind of author, any kind of speaker, and having that happen would be kind of crappy. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. If you want to ask me questions, comments, or concerns, jump on over, send me an email at diaryofatranswoman@gmail.com. If you want to check me out on Twitter. Go to Abby Geek. That's where you can find me. At Trans Diary Show is where you can find the show. We're also on Facebook. Search for diaryofatranswoman.com. DOATW.com is where you're going to want to find all the episodes in their entirety, all the way back to episode 1. And that should just about do it. Patreon.com is where you're going to want to go to support the show. Thank you so much to everyone on Patreon there. Artwork for the show is provided by Taylor Lane Straw. Check out more of her work at taylorlanephoto.com. Same Sex Mary provided the music, samesexmary.bandcamp.com. Thank you so much, everybody. Be sure to take care and have fun. All right, and we're stopped, and we're going to save. I know. I don't want to export. I don't have time to export. DOATW 59. I know I'm still streaming, but I just got to make sure this is saved. And we're at 10:30, and we're saved. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great night.